Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the January meeting of the Portsmouth Police Commission. I would like to call the meeting to order and request Commissioner Scher to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And may I get a motion to accept the minutes of the 2002 meetings held on November 29th?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Now we'll move into public comment. Anybody here would like to address the commission at public comment? Not seeing anyone? We'll close the public comment period. On to new business for the Police Commission, and since this is the first meeting of the year, we will address appointments. We have 2 officer appointments for the commission, a chair and a clerk. And so first we'll make a nomination for chair.
I nominate Commissioner Shaheen as chair.
Second.
Thank you both. And I've served as chair now for over a year. I've appreciated the opportunity to serve in this capacity, and I'm happy to accept the nomination and continue serving. Make it official. On a roll call vote, just to be clear, Commissioner Scher?
Aye.
Commissioner Foil?
Yes.
And I vote yes also. And I will move to appoint Commissioner Scher to remain on as clerk.
And I second that.
And actually, I should clarify, recording clerk.
Thank you.
To get the record straight. So on a roll call vote, Commissioner Coyle?
Yes.
I vote yes. And Commissioner Scher?
Yes.
Great. Thank you for serving in that capacity. And now we have to officially select one of the 3 of us to represent the commission on a city ethics committee should it ever need to be appointed in the coming year. And the way we have historically done this is by drawing straw. So there's no perception of impropriety and neutrality in terms of who gets to serve on the ethics committee. So want to pass this box down. Let's just.
Well, the chief can select.
Yeah, you pick. Well, wait, what are we picking?
The name.
The names are in there. Okay, gotcha. I thought we were each one of us.
Blame the deputy.
Congratulations, Chairman.
I said it. I said it. You did. I had a feeling I was going to have the honor of, hopefully it will not be needed and there will be no need to convene the ethics committee in the coming year, but should there be,
We appreciate your glee at your.
I would be honored to serve.
I will attest to the fact that you did predict that you would be the
And I will
chosen
attest to
one.
the fact that my name was the one you drew. Let's just make sure it wasn't all my name in that box. Just so everybody can see. Yes.
Nope, you're clear.
Okay, just want to make sure. Let the record show. All right. Moving on to the facilities update, and why don't we start with,
We're going to suspend the minutes for
oh, that's right, my apologies, because this is such a fun topic that I'm so excited to be celebrating and updating the community about. So can I get a request to suspend the agenda items and move up item number 1, the comfort program dog
So moved.
chief's report?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Sorry to those who were waiting for us to do that while I'm going on about other things. So Chief, take it away.
So as we had stated before, the department had looked into getting a comfort dog, and recently we have gone through the process, and I'll have Lieutenant Nick Small come up to the podium over here, and he can explain the comfort dog program and selection of our candidate.
Thank you, Chief. So as the commissioner is well aware, we've been on this process for, well, for me, over a year now. We've been trying to get this program off the ground, and I'm excited to announce that we finally got the comfort dog handler appointed. We had interviews the other week, and through that interview process, we've selected Officer Mike Nicoli as a comfort dog handler. He's got some talking points, so I'm kind of, at this point, pushing the program over to him, since he's going to be the kind of the subject matter expert in this process. So I'll invite Mike up, and he can talk a little bit more about what he's going to be doing in the next several months before we actually take possession of the comfort dog and get going on it.
Well, as you approach the podium, I just want to thank you because I know how much this time, effort, and commitment on your part has gone into making this happen, and I think it will be a huge asset to the community. So thank you for all you've done to get us to this place.
Great, thank you. Mike?
Hello. I'm Officer Mike Nicoli with Portsmouth Police, obviously, why I'm here. And I just wanted to touch base and kind of begin by thanking Lieutenant Small for all his hard work in developing this program and allowing me to work in this position and develop it and grow from there. So I wrote up a quick statement. I just want to kind of read to you guys and then answer questions if needed or if asked. So the Portsmouth Police has launched a new program in conjunction with Hero Pups. It's aimed at officer wellness and victim support, calling it the Police Comfort Canine Program. A trained comfort dog and their handler are a precious asset to the Portsmouth Police Department. Unlike typical police canines used to locate drugs or track suspects, police departments use these dogs to ease the trauma for individuals impacted by violence, tragedy, or traumatic events. These dogs can maintain and increase department morale for officers and their families that are facing difficulties. In addition, they visit places like schools, nursing homes, hospitals, and they can attend community events or be called upon whenever there's need. Hero Pups, the organization we partnered with, is based out of Exeter, New Hampshire. They have a remarkable history of dedicated work with not only police departments, but also first responders and veterans. Hero Pups works primarily with shelter and rescue dogs, and our Comfort Canine is currently being evaluated for temperament, health, and will be chosen in the next coming weeks. Right now, they're about 11 weeks old. Hero Pups is a New Hampshire-based nonprofit organization that places dogs and first responders diagnosed with post-traumatic stress, depression, anxiety, and other service-challenged connections. Hero Pups is staffed by volunteers who want to help a shelter or rescue pup while being able to locate a local hero. So I joined the department in September of 2021, and I've been chosen as the Comfort Canine Handler. I transferred to Portsmouth from Massachusetts, where I previously worked as a police officer, and prior to working as a police officer, I worked as a paramedic in the city of Springfield for 6 years. And the Police Comfort Canines being funded through a donation through FirstNet, with no expense to the department or the city. And FirstNet is a nationwide network dedicated to public safety and helps law enforcement, fire, and EMS do their job effectively. I'll begin training with the dog once the dog is selected, and the entire department is pretty excited to have a new Comfort Canine running around the station.
Thank you very much, Officer Nicoli. And again, I just want to thank Lieutenant Small for getting us to this point and making this program possible. If I can just say a couple things and then ask a question. I mean, first, it's no doubt in my mind that this is going to be a tremendous asset. As many people have heard me say before, our family has a service dog who's a medical alert dog trained to detect changes in my daughter's blood sugars. She lives with type 1 diabetes, and I can say firsthand the impact that her dog has had on people when she's out in public. She took the dog through school all the way through Portsmouth High School for all 4 years, and then through college, and just having the dog's presence in a classroom around in an environment where you're not often accustomed to seeing dogs, it's made a huge difference. So I'm so excited that Portsmouth's going to benefit in a similar way with this Comfort Dog program. Can you say more about, and some of these things I'm asking, I have a sense of what the answers are, but I think it'd be helpful for other people to hear. I presume we don't get to name the dog. The community doesn't get to name the dog. It will come with a name.
So the dog is being named by the police department as we're aiming at officer wellness. So what we did is I sent out an email a little while ago with some pictures of very adorable puppies and just open to suggestions. So we've had a couple officers, dispatchers, and some of our admin staff reach out and say, hey, what about these names? We're not sure if we're getting a male or female dog yet, so we have a list right now. I'm just kind of running a list of the dogs' names that people have suggested.
Okay.
Some are kind of symbolize Portsmouth, such as Harbor and Prescott, and then some are just more traditional dog names that are also adorable. So once we know if we're getting a male or female, and we actually have the puppy that is going to be Portsmouth, we're going to put it out to the department to do a survey and say which dog name is the most appropriate for us. What do we want to name it?
I love this idea. I'm glad we actually have a say in getting to name the dog. Our dog came with a name, and we got really lucky because our dog had a great name. but there were some not so fun names, so.
I know, that's what, that
And
was,
you say the name a lot, so
right,
it's
right,
really.
exactly, you're going to live with it.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
And do you have a sense of the timing in terms of when the dog will arrive and be ready?
So the time, so it depends, right? So in the next, they're 11 weeks right now. Usually the training with Hero Pups starts when they're 12 or so weeks, depending on temperament and all those things. So once our dog is selected, I'm going to be working with Hero Pups. We have to iron out a schedule and certain training aspects with the dog. So historically, this process has taken upwards of 10 months until the dog is completely transferred, as they call it, to the police department. During those 10 months, it's not like no one's going to see the dog. Hero Pups will come with me and the dog to the police station, to different events, to socialize the dog, to see what it's all about, and to do training with it. There's an aspect where we'll go into local businesses, we'll go downtown, we'll walk around. Sometimes if we do go downtown or into local businesses, I won't be wearing a uniform just because we want to focus on training, and a lot of attention comes to a cute puppy running around, and sometimes we will. So the dog will still be active, and we have a lot of plans since it's the 400th year of Portsmouth. We're going to incorporate some of those trainings and meet and greet with the dog, so the dog can come with Hero Pups and with myself to go out there. But for the first 10 months, Hero Pups will be with me and the dog training them,
I see.
or her.
I have just a fun anecdote, if you'll indulge me briefly. One of the dogs that was in the same cohort as our dog in training, the family that was being placed with the dog came into the training one morning and said, I don't know what's going on, but I left the room and I went to the bathroom and I came out and the dog had stripped all the sheets off the bed. And it turned out that the dog had been trained by an inmate in a correctional facility, and the inmate had trained the dog on how to strip the sheets. And so it heard this particular command,
Right.
and every time it heard that word, it would strip the sheets. So it's amazing what these dogs can do.
Only the
That's-
dog could make the bed.
Yes, exactly. Then we'd all be happy.
Right.
All right, I'll stop. Commissioners, sure, do you have any questions?
One question. Do you have any sense of what type of dog it will be?
Yes, so out of the dogs, right now, there are 4 purebred black labs available for us. 3 of those are female, 1 of them is male. So they're all purebred. They'll be AKC certified, and mom and dad dogs are in really good health. They're actually already back with their owners. They were also rescues. Very good temperamented dogs, but he or she will be a black lab,
Thank you.
of course.
Here, Coyle?
No, that's great. Good luck. It
Thank
sounds
you.
wonderful.
Thank you.
Part of the naming contest, everybody remember, the black lab.
Yes, yeah, there'll be more pictures to follow.
Yes. Any other questions? Thank you for being here tonight and for
course.
all your work.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you guys for reminding me on the motion to suspend. All right, so we'll go back to the regular agenda. And now we'll turn to the facilities update, beginning with restoration updates on the current facility.
Where it's currently at is we just finished up the court office this week. Court office will be moving back into their space, and starting next week, we'll be moving on to dispatch, which should hopefully be the last step in our full remediation.
And when you're in dispatch, where are dispatch folks going to be?
So we have a redundancy, our backup dispatch at Fire Station 2, and our dispatch center will be moved there during the construction process.
Great. Any other questions on the restoration update?
How long do you anticipate they'll be at Fire Station 2? They're
As far as our mediation goes, we think that should move fairly quickly, probably within a couple of weeks, and then depending on how much rebuild has to take place after that, we'll get a better timeline on how long. We're hoping a month or 2, most, at the most. More towards the month to 6 weeks, but that'll depend on what we find.
Can you say more about because I know we have some training of dispatchers underway now, how will that be impacted by being at a different location?
So in our redundant dispatch center, we have the same setup that we have in dispatch. So although in our dispatch center we have 4 consoles, we only have 3 out there, but only 2 people dispatch at a time. So the new trainees will have a setup station where they'll continue to work, and we're going to make it work as far as training the new staff and dispatching at the same time out there.
Okay.
Make do.
Any other questions on that update? Okay, thanks, Chief. Now, next up, which I think is an exciting update, is making good progress, is the latest on the public safety facility planning. And Commissioner Coyle, can I turn it to you to give a brief update?
Sure. So we recently received proposals from two design build firms, and so we're in the process of evaluating those, and they came in almost identical in budget. So that is, it gives us some options, and we're excited to explore those. So.
Great. Questions for Commissioner Coyle?
None.
Okay. Now, latest update on community priorities, and I know the first question really is CAD RMS and where we are late at the moment with this.
So where we are with the CAD RMS is it's in the final stages to go up to the city attorney's office to sign off on the contract. And once that is finalized, we will be placing our order with a selected company.
So do we have a sense of how long it will take to finalize the contract?
I don't.
Well, because once it gets up to
Pretty
the
lengthy.
to the city attorney's office, I don't know, it's a big contract, so
Okay.
I don't know
We're
how long it's
also
gonna
looking
take
for
to go
like
through
different
it.
kinds of language in there, like this has to be completed by this waypoint, this has to be completed by this waypoint. We had hoped to have like a court module. We don't have one yet, so we're making sure that by a specific date, they have the ability to share information with whatever we choose and things like that, and that's gonna have to be the legal department's verbiage. So,
And then once the contract's in place, how quickly can the work get underway?
I think they're
I think once the
waiting.
contract's signed, it'll be
Very quickly.
immediately.
Okay.
Yeah,
And as far as we know, the vendor is prepared to execute quickly once the contract's
yeah, either
signed?
one, yeah.
Okay. Any questions on that particular topic?
No.
Okay. Any other particular issues relative to community priorities we want to highlight?
Yes, I'm a member of the Communications Subcommittee of the statewide 988 Coalition. We had a meeting yesterday, and it's pretty clear that the lack of clarity in terms of a relationship between rapid response and 988 is out there at the statewide level. It's not just something Portsmouth has struggled with. There is Beacon Health, who runs the rapid response piece of it, is they have a person now designated to deal with Seacoast communities. So I briefly mentioned this to the chief. I plan to put together a meeting with the relevant people at Portsmouth PD, with the relevant people at Seacoast Mental Health, and that person to see if we can, and perhaps the head of dispatch here, to see if we can all get on the same page and everybody knows what everybody else is doing. So that story continues.
Great, and we just did get an update, a more in-depth update on how the preliminary rollout of the emergency response has been going in partnership with Seacoast Mental Health. And at that point, which was earlier in the fall, we agreed collectively that we would regroup toward the end of this first quarter to get a new update on how things have been going. So we will follow up on that and hear from the team on our side and the team at Seacoast Mental Health. Any other points or questions on that front?
I just assume we'll get some more data analysis of what, number of cases if we're ramping up, all that at that meeting.
Yes.
Great.
Exactly. Okay, anything else on the community priorities for tonight? No? All right, Chief, turning it over to your part of the agenda.
All right, we'll start with donations and grants, and we'll need a vote by the commission to accept. We have an unsolicited donation in the amount of $2,500 from Portsmouth residents Paul Gormley and Kimi Iguchi, donated for the police department to be used at our discretion.
I move that we accept the $2,500 donation from Paul Gormley and Kimi Iguchi for the Portsmouth Police Department, and that we forward it to the City Council for their action.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Chief, can I just ask, on grants of this nature, what historically has been, because I don't, normally you don't see unsolicited donations that aren't tied necessarily to something, and so I'm just curious, when we report back on how the funds have been used, what's,
So, and this was an unsolicited donation, so, and when the donation came in, it said to be used at the discretion of the police department.
Yeah.
Which means we could use it for whatever we feel is a need to use a donation towards.
so when that decision's been made as to how the money will be used, can we collectively agree that we'll report back on where it went?
We can do that.
Yeah, just so that we have, so people have a sense of where that is headed and there's not a question about. Great.
Second would be a vote for a grant amount of $11,883 from the Bureau of Justice Assistance for bulletproof vests. This is to help replace vests that we have on a rolling stock, and we pay for 50% of the cost.
I move to accept a grant in the amount of $11,883 from the Bureau of Justice Assistance Patrick Leahy Bulletproof Vest Partnership, and that we forward it to the City Council for their action.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Next will be letters of thank you that we've received from outside the police department. A Hampton, New Hampshire resident wrote to the department to thank Patrol Officer Pete Connor for assisting her with her disabled vehicle on the side of a very dangerous section of roadway in Portsmouth. Officer Connor waited with the woman to ensure her safety until AAA arrived on scene. She's incredibly thankful for his professional and assistance that morning. This is a letter to recognize it by the commission. Second letter received is a letter from Homeland Security Investigations Unit of New England, thanking the Portsmouth Police Department for a continued and valuable partnership in carrying out HSI's mission to combat transnational criminal organizations, curb human trafficking, and investigate financial crimes. Our combined efforts have disrupted the flow of narcotics across the region and rescued 106 victims of child exploitation and human trafficking. And then I will go on and
Before you move on, can you just share a little bit more about the work, to get a letter from Homeland Security Investigations? Can you give folks a sense of how we've worked with them?
So we've worked with them in multiple joint investigations as far as narcotics investigations, crimes against children investigations. A lot of the ICAC cases work with Homeland Security. And in their letter, they spoke about it was 151 criminal arrests, 84 indictments, 49 convictions, the seizure of 500 pounds of illegal narcotics, to include fentanyl, heroin, cocaine, and methamphetamine, 15 firearms, and a total of $1.1 million in U.S. currency, and assets and thousands of images of child exploitation materials. As a result of the partnership that we have worked jointly with them, they want to thank you and are proud to have shared approximately $2.9 million in seized assets with over 40 local agencies within the state, ours included.
So it's worth noting, in particular, the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force, which is a task force that supports the entire state but is run through the Portsmouth Police Department. So when you think about 106 victims of child exploitation and human trafficking, that's a direct result of the work being done here, and it's impacting the entire state.
I would also point out, I'm the founder and chair of a master's in LLM program in International Criminal Law and Justice at the law school. It's a program that focuses on transnational crime. The message that is very valuable here is that transnational crime, human trafficking, child exploitation, the international flow of narcotics is an issue that affects the smallest of towns, be it in New Hampshire or around the country. And I'm really pleased that the work Portsmouth's done in that regard.
Just speaking on that, Portsmouth, we have a lot of hotels here, and that's a common place for human trafficking. Even though people may not hear about it, we have it here, and we deal with it, and we investigate it. We've worked several cases with HSA and other agencies in trying to eliminate human trafficking here in Portsmouth.
Thanks for sharing that.
Next will be traffic stops, and I'll pass it on to Deputy Maloney.
Thanks, Chief. We have 2 months of data in regards to our traffic enforcement. In November, total of 529 traffic stops were completed. We had 36 reportable motor vehicle crashes in the month of November. In December, we had 602 total motor vehicle stops with 40 reportable crashes in the month of December. The weather has been relatively mild for a winter. The roadways have been relatively snow and ice-free. It is worth noting this week we'll be starting up instituting our Office of Highway Safety Traffic Enforcement Grant Program initiatives once again. Customarily in the past, what we've done is we've somewhat delayed some of those patrols towards the warmer months. And we find out that we're putting a lot of patrols in the May, June, July summer program, the summer time frame. Although this year we're going to move those patrols forward, so we're actually having grant-funded traffic safety patrols starting this week and then going throughout the entire winter. And that's as a result of, number one, having the flexibility to do that, to start those patrols a little bit earlier, and then number two, helping to get ahead of and trying to curb what we've seen as a market increase in impaired driving over the last couple of months, and impaired driving crashes and impaired driving crashes with injuries. So those grant-funded patrols will have already started to have been worked, and we'll continue those through September of this year when the grant cycle concludes.
Can you share, Deputy Chief, in terms of the timeframe historically being anchored around the summer? That's presumably because there are more cars, more risk.
Right. So in the summer, in the winter, typically our winters have been more wintry, making traffic enforcement a little bit more difficult. So we've kind of put those off until the weather gets a little bit warmer. Combine the fact that the roadways are still mostly clear, and the fact that we're seeing an increase in impaired operation, we wanted to get those patrols out and have them more consistently scheduled throughout the year. And not to mention the fact Portsmouth 400 with this summer, with the amount of events and other activities going on, we still need to have the bandwidth to be able to support the patrols, so we don't want patrols to go unfilled because we're so busy in June, July, and August dealing with other things in the city. So I think this is a good approach that Captain Cummings has taken to get these patrols started earlier this year.
Question, Commissioner Scher? Commissioner Coyle? Thank you. And you did say, obviously, there's been an increase in impaired driving. We've been noting this over the last many months with some tragic fatalities in November and December. Anything else specific you can see in the data other than it's worse, it's getting worse?
Yeah, I would certainly say October and November were particularly bad months. Looking at December was better than, and I say better in the sense of less crashes with less injuries. Although I won't say it was necessarily better with impaired driving arrests. We're still seeing an alarming trend and still a consistent amount. But with our partnership with New Hampshire State Police, raising awareness campaign to spread the word about impaired driving, we have seen a little bit of a downtick, thankfully, in December, but October and November were particularly bad months, so we're going to do our part to hopefully have that trend continue for the rest of the winter.
Thank you.
Just to pick up on that, what is the nature of the conversations, if any, that the police department has on an ongoing basis with bars and restaurants in Portsmouth as we see this increase in impaired driving?
I think that's something that we could probably get better at. And conversations we've had, we used to have a downtown business association where we meet monthly or quarterly with the businesses, but I think moving forward, I've spoken with the State Liquor Commission to try and go out there and speak with the businesses and emphasize the importance of not over-serving people and addressing people that may look impaired sooner than allowing them to just leave. So those are some of the things moving forward we will look to do.
Is the relationship with is there a downtown business association, or is that a kind of, was that an informal?
At one time, it was a official group, but I think over time it's kind of dissipated. There weren't, especially I think probably through COVID, it really disbanded. But something that we're going to look to try to start back up.
Great.
I would imagine one of the other challenges in the hospitality industry is there's been such staff turnover that keeping the folks you have trained on what to look for, and it's not an easy thing to necessarily identify. It is, by the time it's obvious to identify, it's too late, right? So trying to figure out how you train folks in this industry, especially given the turnover. So I'm grateful to hear, Chief, that the department's committed to doing more. And to your point, maybe there's, between the Rotary clubs and the chamber, maybe there are other channels we can engage to figure out how to, on a more consistent basis, be reaching out. Other questions on that? Okay. On to the financial report.
Excuse me, we just completed the 50% mark, and we're still tracking about 5% below that particular cap. However, despite that good news, the last time at our meeting, I mentioned that we were seeing a significant uptick in overtime coverage for patrol and dispatch. It continued through December. And again, we're still having problems with long-term injured status, long-term military deployments and whatnot. And between patrol and dispatch, it's kind of like a 100-year staffing storm, and we can't seem to work our way out of it. Our overtime is 75% expended at the 50% mark. Yes, we have salary savings, but they're dwindling. So we're going to have to kind of keep an eye on that. In terms of grants, ICAC is seeking additional funding. Our funding this year went down a little bit with the federal government, so he's looking for the state to hopefully supplement some of that reduction. We do continue to look for new grants based on what we're doing at the police department. And then the strategic plan we're still working on. And then that's it.
And can we just go back to a couple of things you raised? And so you mentioned 75% expended in the overtime area of the budget.
Correct.
Given that we're only at the 50% mark. And just for folks at home who may not know, we are managing staffing shortage and dispatch, which has been really challenging.
Significant, yeah.
And we will continue to work hard to manage it, but we are having to rely right now on the Rockingham County dispatch for overnight hours because we don't have enough dispatchers. It's a huge problem, not just in Portsmouth, across the whole state, and frankly, far beyond, given staffing shortages everywhere, but this is part of what's contributing to the overtime issue. Same, obviously, is true of patrol, although not as extreme in terms of the shortage. Questions?
Go ahead.
Certainly, go ahead.
Do you have any sense yet whether the federal infrastructure bill that was passed last year is going to present any opportunities for local police departments?
I'm not aware yet, no. It usually comes to the state, though. I mean, usually comes to the city, and then it gets dispersed through the city.
I do think, to your point though, Commissioner Scher, that for ICAC in particular, there are gopher funds and others that the state has available that we
Which we-
theoretically should be qualified to.
Which we've gotten. We've gotten
Yes.
700,000 and another
Right.
one for 200,000.
Right.
Now we're asking for an additional.
Yes,
like,
exactly.
three.
Which they actually have it.
Yeah.
State has it, so let's,
Just need to get it approved.
yes, we got to get it approved. Commissioner Coyle?
Yes, my question is where we're at 75% of our overtime budget at 50% of the way. Do you think do we have enough salary savings to offset an anticipated increased overtime,
I was going to say, I calculate that
Oh,
every month.
of course-
just to
of
make
course you
sure that
do.
just to make sure what we have for salary savings versus what we need for overtime.
And how are we projecting in light of?
We're going to be close come
Okay.
December, I think, because of what we're hitting every quarter.
Mm-hmm.
The amount we're expending is quite a bit. So,
So,
at least projecting.
Yes.
We'll make it in the black, but I think we're going to be closer than we've ever been
it's,
if this continues.
it's a problem everywhere, I mean,
Yeah.
across all sectors, and
I think it will just come down to what our staffing's gonna look like going into the spring. And hopefully by the summertime, we have all a comparable staff, so it doesn't cost us an exorbitant amount of overtime
Right.
on top of people taking vacation time.
Right, right. Other questions on the financial report?
Just a point that can't be made enough. All that said, in terms of the size of the overtime that is spent by the police department, in light of the overall budget, it's a very small amount.
Correct.
Right. Well, and I think everybody at home listening and here understands the extreme staffing challenges across every industry. And this actually leads to a point I wanted to raise under other business, which is we are actively engaged in union negotiations for updated contracts, which will play out over the next year. But we are seeing that our officers are not earning some of what's comparable in other communities. So, we've got to address this so we can keep patrol officers and we can keep dispatch. It's not acceptable not to be able to pay people a wage they can live on and do the kind of work we're talking about. Dispatch is a really hard job. You're dealing with people's lives in your hands in emergency situations. You have to be well trained. You have to know how to manage the technology that's available. It's not a job that doesn't come with risk and stress. And so we have to do our part to do everything we can to get qualified people in there and keep them. And so that's a key focal point for us for the coming year.
And just to dovetail on that, just slightly, just how much we appreciate everybody doing, everyone at the department doing the overtime shifts. I mean, so that, to keep the community safe and, have dispatch services, it is taxing and difficult work, and we really do appreciate greatly everybody taking those overtime shifts and those contributions.
Anything else on the financial report? Okay. One other point I just want to make sure we raise this evening, because it happened earlier today, and this meeting should not end without acknowledgement and appreciation to the chief and to the entire department for your work, along with the Attorney General's office for referring what was potentially and looks like is definitively a violation of New Hampshire Civil Rights Act, and that has led to charges that were brought forward today and announced by the Attorney General's office here earlier today. So I'm sure you'll see more details in the press. But it really does go without saying that would not have been possible were it not for the department's efforts to stop the crime as it was happening, to report the crime to the attorney, or the violation of the Civil Rights Act, technically, to report it to the Attorney General's office so that they could investigate and bring forward charges. It appears this is clearly a hate crime. We're not going to tolerate it in Portsmouth, and it was reassuring to hear today that the Attorney General was going to take every action possible to prevent it from happening in the future and to put these folks on notice, but that wouldn't have been possible without the department. So thank you to the chief and the deputy chief and the entire team for making that happen. Any other comments on that?
Just echoing Commissioner Shaheen's sentiments. Thank you.
As do I.
Great. Any other miscellaneous or other business? All right, with that, just a reminder to folks that our next regular meeting is Tuesday, February 22nd, same time, same place. Be here, don't miss it. And with that, a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Well,
You're
yeah, I'm asking for a motion.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in
yeah.
favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night. We marked it as Tuesday, but it is Wednesday.